We begin with breaking news out of Springfield, where an IT issue put an early end to the school day for all public city schools. Welcome to Western Mass News at 6, everyone. I'm Chris Pisano.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Jordyn Jagalinzer. Western Mass News reporter Lindsay Kane joins us live in Springfield with new information on when kids will be able to resume school. Lindsay?
Chris and Jordyn, we have just learned that students will be back in their virtual classrooms tomorrow. Officials do not believe that any data has been compromised. Springfield Public Schools Assistant Superintendent Lydia Martinez tells Western Mass News their top priority was getting students back online. She says earlier this morning officials detected a potential threat to the IT network. City officials were working with the state police and the FBI. But with all computers forced to shut down, the remainder of the school day came to a quick end. But again, school will be held remotely as normal tomorrow. Now, it's still unclear exactly what this threat was, but coming up later on Western Mass News 11 at 11, we hear from parents in the city on how this impacted their children. For now, live in Springfield, Lindsay Kane, Western Mass News.
Lindsay, thank you. 10,000 Eversource customers are now without power across the state.
In Springfield, homeowners are still cleaning up after Wednesday's storm damage. Western Mass News reporter Audrey Russo is live there with more. Audrey?
For some people, yesterday's high winds only brought down a shower of pine needles on their cars. For others, though, it toppled trees and knocked out power for what's going on 24 hours. Now, I spoke with Eversource, and they tell me that it could be another day or two before everybody in Western Mass has the lights on again.
We restored about 41,000 customers in Western Massachusetts.
Eversource spokesman Reed Lamberty says Wednesday's storm battered their power lines in Western Mass.
We had about 70 utility poles broken. We had about 6 miles worth of power lines that came down, hundreds of trees that needed to be cleared, dozens of roads blocked.
Lamberty tells Western Mass News Pittsfield was the most affected area they serve, but crews from Canada and Ohio have been brought in to help the whole region.
We want to let our customers in Western Massachusetts know that Saturday at noon is when we're projecting all of our customers will have power.
Lamberty says the overwhelming majority of people should have power before that time frame.
The power went out sometime in late afternoon and still out.
Over by Pine Point, a pine tree took out power to several nearby homes. Maria Moose says she's used to this by now, having removed 2 other pines from her property in years past.
I had them cut down because I know that as they age, their tendency to fall down over heavy winds or heavy snow, it's big. And because they were close to the house, I wanted to protect it.
Decades of New England storms serving as a lesson.
Trying to be proactive when bad weather comes, and it's going to come.
Now, over in East Longmeadow, they too were heavily affected by the storm. They're served by National Grid. Their representatives tell me that most people can expect to have their power back on by late tomorrow afternoon. Reporting live, I'm Audrey Russo for Western Mass News.
Audrey, thank you for that live report. The impact from Wednesday's storm damage still clearly being felt all across Western Mass.
For the latest on the forecast, let's send things over to meteorologist Don Maher. Hey, Don.
Oh, good afternoon, Jordyn and Chris. At least the weather has cooperated for that cleanup. Yes, it has been a bit on the windy side, but at least it has been a dry day out there. And we continue to see a fair amount of sunshine on our Springfield sky camo. That sun will be setting very soon, sunset at 6:19. Temperature-wise, 55 currently here in Springfield. West-northwesterly winds at 14, so it is still a bit on the breezy side out there, but those winds are going to finally start to diminish as we head on into the late evening and into the overnight. Blandford, Worthington already down into the 40s, so temperatures only made it to the 50s and 60s. We're already seeing those numbers come down. The wind speeds, though, still not really coming down. Though orange, the winds have relaxed a little bit. Otherwise, we're still looking at sustained winds, 10 to 20 miles per hour, still gusting at 25 to 30 miles per hour, but the winds were not as strong as they were earlier. That, at least, is some good news. But as those winds get light and the sun goes down, the temperatures will fall fast. It is going to be a chilly night out there tonight. In fact, lows going to drop down into the upper 20s and lower 30s. Mainly clear skies, light to calm winds as we move into the overnight. There are no frost advisories for Western Mass. Our growing season officially came to an end already, but there are frost advisories to our east, to our south, and to our southeast. If you do have any sensitive vegetation, though, you do want to cover it up or bring it inside. So another cool day tomorrow. But then Saturday looking quite a bit warmer. I'll show you that in my full forecast in just a couple of minutes from now. Back to you.
Don, thanks. COVID-19 cases continue to rise across the Bay State. The state reporting 409 new cases today for a total number of 134,277 in Massachusetts. And there were also 8 more deaths reported today, bringing the statewide death toll to 9,350. The town of Amherst is one of 4 communities here in Western Mass now in the color-coded red and considered a high risk for COVID-19.
This comes as UMass Amherst is seeing a rise in cases in students who live off campus. That number of cases now up to 125. Western Mass News reporter Leon Purvis is live in Amherst with what community leaders are now saying. Leon?
Jordyn, Chris, in a virtual town meeting today, the Amherst town manager talked about how the red designation is already impacting the community.
The most immediate has been the sports. Other schools are canceling games that they may have with our students, which is a shame, and because the sports for a lot of our youth is their only outlet, and something that's really important.
Amherst town manager Paul Balkelman in a virtual chat with residents reacting to the town now being in the red zone on the state's COVID-19 risk map. Amherst joined Springfield, Holyoke, and Sunderland, also in the red, with many UMass Amherst students living off campus in Amherst and neighboring Sunderland. Town leaders say they're keeping an eye on cases, especially after a large cluster was tied to an off-campus party in September.
We are, really trying to up our game. We're working very closely with our partners at the university to try to really kind of double down on all of the precautions that the state and the federal government are recommending.
Amherst Assistant Town Manager Dave Zomek tells Western Mass News they are doubling down on communication efforts.
I would say redoubling our efforts, getting more messaging out there, both online but also in person.
Town leaders are also concerned that being in a red community will keep visitors away.
We worry about the impact on our businesses because the sort of general feeling, it's a red community. I think it's a very crude tool, and I don't think it's necessarily a helpful one. It's designed to get people's attention, which it does, but it has some other consequences.
This is all happening as Governor Charlie Baker recently allowed restaurants in the Bay State to seat up to 10 people at a table and open bar areas for dining. But over at Johnny's Tavern in downtown Amherst, they're holding off on that.
We want to ease into things and take our time and do everything as informed as we can, make sure anything we do and any moves we make to progress and move forward and increase any capacity that we're doing it as informed as we can and as safely as we can.
And business for them is pretty steady.
It is working really well for us. We're very fortunate right now with business picking up. So we've been able to utilize all of the seats near the bar, which still gives people that feeling of being at the bar even though they're not directly there.
As of now, Amherst town leaders say they don't plan on fining anyone for not following COVID-19 guidelines. Instead, they plan to continue to educate. Live in Amherst, Leon Purvis, Western Mass News.
Leon, thanks for that live report. New at 6, a coalition of local artists is planning to make a new Black Lives Matter mural on Worthington Street in Springfield on Saturday. The artists tell Western Mass News this is in response to the constant defacement to the mural painted in front of City Hall. The new mural on Worthington Street will be painted on a wall instead. The latest damage done to the Court Street mural occurring last Sunday, October 4th, has been repaired. Police are still looking for information regarding the latest act of vandalism.
In Patriots news, the team's practice facility remains closed today following news that 2 Patriots players have tested positive for COVID-19. Quarterback Cam Newton and cornerback Stephon Gilmore, meaning tomorrow could be their only practice this week ahead of Sunday's game against the Broncos. This is the second week in a row the Pats' prep schedule has been disrupted by COVID-19 cases. Western Mass News speaking to Coach Bill Belichick about what kind of challenges he expects to face on Sunday because of this.
There are a lot of factors, and there are things that are changing, very quickly. Or could change very quickly. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So I think we knew that at the beginning of the season that there were going to be challenges, and there have been, and we're committed to working through them, and that's what we're doing.
Now, despite everything, he tells us they are, of course, still preparing to give it their all on Sunday. And some good news coming out of Gillette Stadium tonight. All players tested this morning came back negative.
Meantime, the UMass Minutemen are expected to take the field next weekend, announcing a new change to their fall schedule tonight. They'll be facing the Eagles in Statesboro, Georgia next Saturday, October 17th. Kickoff is at 4. As for the risk this presents to the spread of the coronavirus at UMass Amherst, the athletic department tells Western Mass News football players and staff are being tested multiple times a week and can increase testing to meet additional opponent requirements to play games. Since the start of the semester, 133 students have tested positive at the university, with 3 of those students being part of the football program.
New tonight, guests at MGM Springfield will soon have another game available to play. The Massachusetts Gaming Commission voted today to allow the return of roulette to both MGM as well as Encore Boston Harbor. Now, the unanimous decision comes with restrictions, of course, to protect for the coronavirus. Among the changes, the commission says there can be no more than 3 roulette players per table, and those players must remain seated while gambling and also be separated by plexiglass that's at least 6 feet tall.